Oh! Hey, what's up? A-Aron here for my 20-second reaction video, Double Deuce. And I'm super excited to be back here for another Angelina Jordan. And specifically, this is the finals performance of Norway's Got Talent when she was 8 years old. And she ended up winning it with this performance. And many of you have said, this is an outstanding performance. This is the one, so I could not be more excited. That said, let's set the scene. Let's set the stage. And so this was a song written by George Gershwin as a part of the very famous opera Porgy and Bess. And Gershwin was an American composer and pianist. He was popular for both classical and jazz. And he, some tunes that you may be familiar with as well as Rhapsody in Blue, American in Paris. And this Porgy and Bess was super important historically speaking because, it stipulated that he stipulated that only African Americans be allowed to play the lead roles when the opera was performed in the United States, and it launched careers of several prominent opera singers. And then it, had huge controversy around it and was incredibly influential during the Civil Rights Movement, Black Power movement. And it's one of the most iconic pieces. In fact, people that don't really listen to jazz know this song. This is one of those songs that everybody knows. If you start going around and singing "Summertime," people will know it, right? They'll understand it. It's been sung by greats as Billie Holiday, Ella Fitzgerald, also with Louis Armstrong, Janis Joplin, the opera singer Leontyne Price, Miles Davis, Sam Cooke, Nina Simone, Nora James Jones, you name it, right? And this song takes place in the opening scene of Porgy and Bess, where a woman is singing to her baby. So picture that, the woman singing to her baby. And just a little bit of the backdrop to understand the context here is she's singing about, wonderful things that the baby's going to have, but it's kind of not necessarily true. Their father isn't wealthy, and I'm guessing that she doesn't perceive herself as, pretty mother and so forth. So it's kind of painting this rosy picture through the baby. So that's the backdrop of this. And so let's dive right in.
Hun var den første deltakeren som ble klar for finalen. Men nå ventetiden endelig over for 8-åringen, som kaller seg en helt vanlig jente. Men til å være en helt vanlig jente, så vil jeg i alle fall si at hun har etterlatt seg et helt uvanlig inntrykk så langt i Norske Talenter.
Foran oss her, folkens, så har vi ei stjerne.
Egentlig så er jeg en vanlig jente.
Du er jo musikk!
Det skjer jo veldig mye med intervjuer og sånn. Det var en gammel dame, og så sa hun at jeg ble rørt. Og så sa jeg det var ikke meningen. Da klemte hun meg.
Dette er starten på noe som er veldig, veldig spennende i ditt liv.
Dette har vært en reise. Og den er ikke ennå ferdig.
Angelina, jeg tror at jeg kan si at jeg elsker deg. I mitt hjerte har du allerede vunnet.
Jeg elsker å synge. Og det skal jeg vise dere i kveld.
Let's go. Gives me chills. This is so good. So good. Whew. Okay. let's get started with... So I am going to pause here. I'm trying to find the right balance of pausing and commentating, as well as watching and observing and not getting too far behind and trying to find that right balance here. So please continue to give me feedback, guys. All right, so let's go into that intro. So there was all this sappy stuff, which, I think is appropriate. It's kind of taking a trip down memory lane. Many people had not seen or heard of her before. Now we're in the finals. Some people tune in just to that, right? Not to mention the live studio audience and so forth. So it makes a lot of sense. But one of the key things that was the theme there as well is talking about her being an ordinary girl. And she said she likes to think of her as just an ordinary girl. And clearly, first of all, she's not. She's not an ordinary girl. But, everybody likes a champion and a winner. But if they're arrogant, that doesn't last. And I love her humility and how relatable she is. And, that's the thing that people strive for and fight for. And I imagine that many of you get behind is her heart of who she actually is. Right? And, I learned this lesson multiple times in my life. I remember diving competition in high school when my freshman year diver beat one of my teammates who was a junior at the time, and he was just a prick. He was arrogant. He was an a-hole. I mean, really. And 2 years later, I got good and I came back and beat him. And I remember I really had been, for 2 years, I had wanted to tell him to his face and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, I was super nice to him and I said, great job, so on and so forth. And I remember my teammates saying, why didn't you rub it in? And I said, I don't know. But the next day I realized why. It felt so much better. It was so much better being humble. It was so much better, treating them nicely and respectfully and not shining the spotlight on me. We're all competitors. And that humility she shows is just remarkable at this age. It's so mature. Okay, so going on beyond that. So first of all, I noticed her teeth are mostly grown in. And then we started off with the trumpet player playing off stage, I believe. And so actually, before we go there, let's talk a little bit about the instrumentation and the choice chosen here. So I'm hearing this most closely resemble the Ella Fitzgerald and Louis Armstrong version, especially with the trumpet coming in. Now, I think that this probably started before they cut the video, because you just hear the one trumpet, and then it goes right in. Now, it is possible it started there, but I'm guessing we had one or two musical measures before that, my guess. But he started off stage. Yeah, he's off stage. You can see as it zooms out. Sure is. Okay, and then she gets into this just beautiful, full sound with such an incredibly strong vibrato. So, wow, her tone is full on grown bleep woman at this point. So that vibrato, so I think it was 2 videos back, if I'm not mistaken, where I talked about it was a much wider vibrato. And in the last one, in the semifinals, it was much more narrow and therefore much more controlled. And I talked about how that wide vibrato, she had a ways to go. And what I've seen thus far is that there's much more control with it here. It's not perfect, but wow, is it close. It's incredibly powerful. I think there's probably 1% of all female vocalists that could probably do that at this level where she's at now. I mean, I'm throwing up a random number. I don't know, but I'm sure it's not a lot, right? And it's so wide that, in fact, I think she's trying to get that full interval as part of it. So it actually, instead of sounding, a wider interval often sounds more dissonant to the ear. It's not as pleasant when you get really wide because you're actually wavering on the note, right? And then you speed it up here. Here she's kind of doing it between 2 tones of the theme song, which are part of the pentatonic scale that most of the entire melody is built on. There's 5 notes as this kind of built around it, dances around like the exception of 1 or 2. And so she's going back and forth between those two, so it actually sounds really good to the ear. And she has an incredible amount of control. Now, with this wide of a range between those notes in it, I almost wonder, to me, that's not even a vibrato. There's a technique for trumpet players called a lip trill, where you don't change any of your, fingering, and you alternate between like that. She's essentially doing that. I wonder if there's a term for that vocally, like a vocal trill or something. I don't know. But I feel like that's more like what she's doing than a vibrato here. And it's a really neat effect. It's working well for her. Usually I do not like these wide of vibrato, but it works for her. Okay, and so the other thing I noticed is her diction is quite good for the most part. I'm not quite sure what it was. I wrote down cotton. I don't remember what the specifics of it was. Fish are jumping, and here we go, cotton.
And the curtain is high.
Okay, yeah, so instead of saying cotton, she said cotton, and she emphasized the in more, and I think that was to create more of that continuity of the phrase, the connectedness. Cotton, and she continued with that. The other thing is she has such a low tone, and it's really difficult. I think I commented on this before. I certainly thought about it. Apologies if I never did, but getting that low for a little girl is incredibly hard, right? And living is easy. It's so low that she got such a full tone at that. Remarkable. And then the last thing I wrote was that "Don't You Cry," which is so beautifully done. The nice, her timing is impeccable, and she's playing with that a little bit. She's got a nice, what's the word I'm looking for? The word is, she's kind of swinging with it. She's a little bit behind the beat, and oh, your daddies, right? Your daddies. Oh, your daddy. So she's also playing with the volume a little bit. Your daddy.
And your ma is good looking.
Right here, I think. No, it's almost.
Little baby.
Right here. Don't you cry. So that's very similar, I believe, to how Ella Fitzgerald does it, but she does a smooth legato. Don't you, which I feel like this is more befitting of the imagery I've always had in my head there, because again, picture the opera, that the woman singing to her baby, and so I'm picturing the baby in her arm, right, and she's singing to her baby. Right? And, if you've ever had a kid in your arms or otherwise, and especially if you're trying to sing, you might play with them a little bit. Don't. Right? And here, it's more playful in the fact that, I could picture her even, maybe touch it on the nose or something like, don't you cry. Right? Very playful, and I feel like it is really almost more, I don't know if I've made up that image of how she leverages it and talks to it, but that's the way I interpret this, and I feel like she's actually loaned herself more to that, making it more staccato, the short da-ho-ho-ho. Beautiful, beautiful. Sorry, I know I just stopped, but I don't think I've ever heard anybody do that like that. Hold on, let's see what key we're in. Don't you cry. Yeah, so this is in B minor. So don't you cry. Right? So it's, yeah, that is, don't you cry. Okay. Yeah, she plays it. Okay. Don't you cry. That is, I don't think I've ever heard anybody do that. Don't you? And she builds the volume as well. Sorry, summertime. What's it? Lyrics. Summertime. Oh! Oh!
So hush, little baby, don't you cry, don't you cry, don't you cry, don't you cry.
Okay, we will listen to the judges' comments, but wow. Wow, 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 wow. Where she took that up, that seamless slide was just not only beautiful, but it's rare. I think I've only heard it once, maybe twice. I think Ella Fitzgerald did that, and I think Miles Davis might have done something like that, but also as a background. But you don't really hear people do that. And I feel like she did it better. Oh, that was so beautiful. And then she had a little nice blues lick on top of that. Where was that at?
Fish are jumping, and the curtain is high. Oh, your dad is rich, and your mom is good looking, and the curtain is high. Oh, your dad is rich, and your mom is good looking.
That right there was epic. Oh, your daddy. And then she did a little lick after that.
Your dad is rich, and your mom.
And you're mine. And then the trumpet in the background too, I'm noticing.
Oh, your dad
Oh,
is rich, and your mom is good looking.
listen to that dance, the conversation between her and the trumpet player here.
Is rich, and your mom is good looking.
And your mom's good looking. They're talking back and forth. It's so good.
So hush, little baby, don't you cry, don't you cry, don't you cry, don't you cry.
Oh boy. So If you don't understand this, don't worry about it. The point is I've got the lyrics here, and it helps me understand the melody a little bit. You can see the lyrics here. And this song continues, but it looks like, just to double check. Yeah, so she chose to just do the first verse, right? So don't you cry, and instead of continuing one of these mornings, she went back to the top. Right back to here and repeated again, but it was different. I feel like every bit of it was different. She added little melismas and everything to it. Wow. And then the last part, it's a descending line, but she maintained a unison, same note. Don't you cry. And then she took it up an octave and then back down. Beautiful arrangement, beautiful choice. What's not to like about this? Almost everything is perfect. I mean, seriously, it's so close to perfect. And in fact, I can no longer already at this age talk about her as some young girl or as an 8-year-old. She is already an artist that, you know, has adding her own element to it, is adding her own unique appeal, phrasing, interpretation. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So a couple things here. First and foremost, before I give my closing thoughts, I want to stop for a moment and say thank you to all of you who've been incredible so far. You know, your support has been unbelievable, and I really appreciate all the comments and the love and just your love and appreciation for Angelina as well. I'm going to do something a little different here, and so I'm going to wrap up commenting in just another minute or two. And I have a whole bunch more I want to dive into, but I'm going to separate that out into kind of afterthoughts or whatever that are going to become a part of a membership. And I'm still working on what those memberships are going to be. So I might just give this as a bonus or something. I'm not entirely sure what I'll do with this, but it's going to be cut off and separated. And there's probably quite a bit more here. And so that said, I want to hear your feedback in terms of, you know, memberships. Like, would you join a membership? You know, if we had a basic membership for like, you know, $3 or something like that a month, American, of course, USD, I shouldn't say American, but, you know, and it included, for example, access to these, you know, would it be something that you would subscribe to for additional commentary and things to that effect? So I'm still figuring that out, and I want to hear your feedback. Maybe ideas or thoughts around what the membership levels might be or whatever. I can no longer read all your comments. There's too much. I can't do it. So I'm going to have to leverage membership-based systems where people are paying money for more access or something as well. It's just the only way. I can't keep up with it. I love it all, but I can't keep up with it. Anyway, closing thoughts. So in 2 years, maybe a year and a half, from her first studio recording that I saw, and I know there's debate whether it was the very first or not, but it sounds like it was within maybe even the same day or within a very short time period of each other, all around the age of 6. She was nervous there. I know many of you said no, she wasn't. She said she's never nervous. I saw nerves. I believe she was nervous. Maybe not a ton, but I believe she was nervous, and I'm standing by that. To then developing to feel more comfortable, right? She got rid of the nerves on the next performance, and then after that I commented in the semifinals, I felt like she was comfortable for the first time to me. Right here, I feel like she's added that up another level, and she's now confident in what she's doing. She's going out there and she's owning it. She's making it her own. She's going after it. She wants to win. She's hungry here, right? To me, the only thing missing at this point, her continuing work on that vibrato, which is already outclassed by 90%, 99% maybe even of other vocalists already at this point. So she, I'm sure, continues to work on that. But the only thing that is not really a criticism, it's just growth opportunity, stepping to the next step, is her stage presence. You know, better communication with the audience, judges, would like to see her move around, look around, point, whatever. You know, involve them. It's not really criticism, but just where she can grow. Like, I feel like she could have so much more stage presence. Look, this has been fantastic. Again, I'm going to stop this and start a new recording where we're going to do some afterthoughts or deeper dive. I'm not quite sure even what I'm going to call it yet. We'll figure it out. But thank you much. We'll see you in the next one.